Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another Game of Thrones episode review right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Game of Thrones episode review, and this is the Season 2 finale entitled Valar Morghulis. I think is how they pronounced it in the episode. Anywho, but I'm here to bring you all my Season 2 Episode 10 review. And there's a lot of things I have to discuss about this week's episode. And a lot of characters I have to tackle. So, bear with me. I'll try my best to get to everybody that I want to talk about. Let me repeat that. I'll try my best to get to everyone I want to talk about. But I'm gonna have to tackle this by location. I'm sorry, I just gotta do it. Gotta tackle it by location. So I'll do this: King's Landing, Robb's Camp, Harrenhal, Winterfell, Karth, the Wall, north of the Wall. That's how I'll tackle this. Alright, so starting off with what happened in King's Landing and what's been going on with the characters. So we're in the aftermath of Blackwater, and of course, Big Bad Booty Daddy Tywin Lannister swooped in, saved the day last week. Rah, rah, rah. Yeah. Okay, cool. But as I said in last week's review, what I expected to happen in regards to Tyrion, we saw happen in this week's episode. What I was talking about was this: because Tywin is finally in King's Landing, now he can, well, I guess we didn't know whether or not he would stay, but Joffrey has appointed him as the official Hand of the King. So Tywin swoops in, saves the day, right? He's Hand of the King now. So why? Oh, and we found out that Cersei was the one behind the attack, the wound that Tyrion suffered in last week's episode during Blackwater. Yeah, she was behind that. So what is Tyrion going to do? And this was the point I was trying to get across in last week's episode. I fear for Tyrion because there's no need for him in King's Landing anymore. Because there's no need for him, he is now disposable. And seeing as how Cersei still has a grudge against him, and she did not succeed in having Homeboy kill him at Blackwater, Tyrion has apparently, we don't know what's happened to Bronn. And well, we know that he's no longer in charge of the City Watch, and Tyrion's Hill tribesmen have gone back home. So what I'm saying is this: Tyrion needs to get the hell out of King's Landing. He is in mortal danger. But I gotta say this though. God damn it! If I did not like Shay before this episode, I'm not saying that I didn't like Shay before this episode. What I'm saying is this: if I didn't like her before this episode, I damn sure fucking liked her afterwards, man. Shay is a ride or die chick. Yes, man, I'm sorry, but that stunt she pulled in this week's episode, that put her amongst my favorite female characters, probably amongst my favorite characters on the show, cause god damn it, man, she stood by that motherfucker. Oh man, I'm sorry, that was one of those touchy moments that got to me in this episode. There's another one, and I'll discuss that when we get to Karth. Okay, so don't know what Tyrion's gonna do. Don't know. Like I said, King's Landing is no longer safe for him, and I can only imagine what's going to happen once Jaime gets there, because I think the only thing that's keeping Tyrion alive right now is the fact that Tywin doesn't want him killed right now. But what's going to happen when Jaime shows up? You see what I'm saying? So I fear for Tyrion. He wants to stay there, cool. I fear for him. Joffrey. Okay. I did not see this coming. We know that Littlefinger was the one responsible for setting up the Lannister Tyrell Alliance, right? And we also know that Littlefinger expressed Marjorie's desires to Tywin when he first, brought up the idea, right? I'm curious because I did not expect for Joffrey to actually agree to marry Marjorie. So I'm curious as to what were the terms of the alliance. Was Marjorie supposed to be promised that? Because what I'm saying is this: the way in which it occurs in the episode, it is as if Cersei and Pycelle had to convince Joffrey to do it, right? But my whole thing was, I want to know what were the terms of that alliance. Because, hypothetically speaking, let's say Joffrey wouldn't have, then would the Tyrells just have, jumped ship? I want to know more about that. But I'll tell you this, though. I am excited that Joffrey decided to marry Marjorie, because this means we'll get to see more of her next season, hopefully. Which I've always liked her character since they introduced her, and I think Marjorie, I have a feeling she will be a formidable presence for Cersei, because the whole thing that's been going on with Cersei and Sansa in this season is kind of been like this, how to describe it? The way we talked about it when I had my guest spot on a podcast of Ice and Fire this past week, and we talked about like Cersei's her perception of Sansa, or her animosity towards Sansa out of some type of jealousy, some type of self-loathing, or some type of pettiness, some type of envy. What I'm saying is, I think having Marjorie there, that won't happen with Cersei. Marjorie seems like the not fucking around type. I don't think Marjorie would allow Cersei to behave the way she does with Sansa in regards to her. I don't think we're going to get that. I think Marjorie's going to give Cersei a run for her money. If nothing else, solidify that line in the sand, like, okay, look, you're you, I'm me, this is how this thing's going to work, and you're not fucking with my plan. I'm hoping for that. But that brings me to Sansa, because now okay, you all will remember a few weeks ago when I talked about how after Sansa had her period, I was like, okay, now I feel like she's in danger, because before she was betrothed to Joffrey, and then and she could, she hadn't bled yet, so there was no sign that she could actually bear a child yet, right? But then the second she had her period, I'm like, okay, well, now she can bear children. Now I kind of feel for her, because I'm looking at it as if, okay, once she produces an heir for Joffrey, she's disposable. Same thing with Tyrion, she's in a position where she's no longer needed, so they can discard her, right? But she's not even betrothed to Joffrey anymore. So yeah, she's yesterday's fucking news. She's a fucking goose in the water, man. She's a dead duck. But then here comes my next question. What are they going to do with her? I don't mean they as in Joffrey and the royal family. I mean the writers, the crew. What are you all going to do with Sansa now that she's no longer betrothed to Joffrey? Because what I'm saying is this: I don't see any point in keeping her in King's Landing anymore. Just like with Tyrion, I don't see what purpose she could possibly serve staying there. So what's going to happen with her? She had an offer to leave to head up north with the Hound, but I think the Hound's already skipped town. So what she's going to do? Littlefinger expressed using her. Of course, we know Littlefinger wanted to use her in order to get back in good graces with Cat. Of course, she's not falling for that. And then they could possibly still trade her for Jaime, but Robb doesn't have Jaime anymore, so what is Sansa supposed to do? That's my question. I have no fucking clue. I hope she does something. Because what has always been my biggest complaint about Sansa, she wasn't proactive for like half a fucking season. Half of this season, the first half of this season, she wasn't proactive. So now that she's actually started being proactive, now you kind of give her the pink slip. So what is she supposed to do now? And I'll close out my King's Landing part of this review with Varys. Varys and his approaching of Roz. Because here's another thing. Same thing, you know. My biggest complaint about Roz and my biggest complaint about Sansa was that these characters weren't proactive. You see what I'm saying? Whereas, okay, Roz, my whole thing with her was like, I felt like her scenes weren't contributing anything significant to the story. And then, of course, Sansa was just, she wasn't being proactive. So what happened was we got Roz vanished and Sansa became more proactive, right? Okay, well, now that Roz has reappeared, she's been approached by Varys with a job proposal, with a job offer. But my thing with Sansa is my same thing with Roz. What is she going to be doing? My guess would be that Varys is going to use her as a spy for, you know, to spy on Littlefinger. But then I question, it's like, but what information could Roz possibly give Varys about Littlefinger that he couldn't get on his own, or that he couldn't get through his other informants? So I'm not sure what he wants Roz to do, but I like that scene, and I'll tell you why. Because it's giving Roz something to do. It's making her more important than what she's already been. You see what I'm saying? It's putting her in a position to be a playmaker, to potentially contribute to the events that are going to transpire afterwards. You see what I'm saying? It gives her more of a role. Just got to find out what that role is. I hope it's something substantial. I hope it's not she's just going to become one of his informants, because his informants are, the number of his informants are legion, okay? So her just being another part of the flock of birds, of pretty little birds, it's like, no. Give her something more. What my thing is this: what separates? If she's an informant? What's going to separate Roz from the rest of them? That's my whole argument. I hope it's something substantial. Now, since we're moving from King's Landing, now I'm going to talk about the Starks. Since I've already brought up Sansa, I'll talk about the Starks, which is going to lead me into from Robb's camp to Harrenhal, or the outskirts of Harrenhal rather, and then to Winterfell. So at Robb's camp, of course, we see Robb. He is now butting heads with Catelyn, which, for all intent and purpose, he is well within his rights to do so. However, one thing I noticed about the whole Robb-Catelyn scene, while I don't blame Robb for feeling the way he's feeling and doing what he's doing, because let's face it, he was betrayed by Catelyn. Catelyn betrayed his trust. But two wrongs do not make a right. And I feel Robb should know that. And I don't know. I expect better from Robb. Just because Catelyn betrayed you does not mean you betrayed her. Because let's face it, that's what he's done. When Robb went ahead and married your girl, that's what he did. Because he agreed to marry Walter Frey's daughter, right? And that agreement was organized by Catelyn. So his disregard of that, his breach of that agreement is a betrayal of Catelyn. So she betrayed him, he betrayed her, but like I said, two wrongs do not make a right. And I feel like I expected more of Robb. He should know better than that. But of course, you know, Robb is kind of, I guess you could say, following his heart and whatnot. And so he went ahead and married your girl. Now, my question is this. This is going to put him on opposing odds with the Freys, which Robb has enough shit on his plate. Why would you add to it? And the whole thing that frustrates me is it's self-inflicted. Robb did that on his own. It wasn't enough to just keep your girl around as a mistress, right? Because of course he couldn't do that, even though that would have been the most practical. But no, he had to go ahead and he had to marry her and like, yay! But now you've created another enemy that you couldn't afford to begin with. So Robb is just digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into a fucking hole. Speaking of digging into deeper holes, because I completely fucking forgot about Stannis. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to plot Stannis in here right now before I forget about him. Fucking Stannis. And fucking Melisandre. I'm going to put it to you like this. That woman is going to get him killed. Or rather, he's going to get himself killed for allowing that woman to fuck with his head. That woman is going to get Stannis killed. I promise you this. That bullshit about her sharing her vision with Stannis. How the fuck do we know that's not just her? How do we know that's not just her? Fucking projecting those images into Stannis' head. How do we know that's legit? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't want to go break out into a fucking tangent about the use and abuse and pros and cons and benefits and repercussions of using magic. Especially black magic or dark magic or the dark arts, whatever the fuck you want to call them. It is not going. I do not predict this is going to end well for Stannis. Since we're talking about magic, though, perfect segue to go to Arya, because the whole Valar how do you pronounce that? That thing. I got a feeling that's a spell, and let me tell you why I say that. Because when she met back up with Jaqen, you know, after out on the outskirts of Harrenhal, however far they got out, and of course Jaqen told her, number one, he's from Bravos. I don't know why I didn't see that. It kind of makes sense when I think about it, and now more so than actually the fucking accent. How did I not pick up on that before? I must not have been paying attention. Anywho, but of course, you know, the whole exchanging of the coin and then the words and then of course the moment when his face changed. I think that's a spell. And what I mean is this. I don't think his face like actually changed. When that scene, I interpreted that as his face changed to her. Because remember, she was the one who had to say the words. Or who knows, maybe his face changed to everyone else, but stayed the same to her, so that if she was to meet him in the future, she could actually identify him. You see what I'm saying? There it's an even or. Either one of those is a plausible assumption. But yeah, so Arya's pretty much trying to get back in touch with her family. I mean, nothing too big there. I wish she would have taken Jaqen up on his offer. I think it would have been kind of cool for Arya to go to Bravos and kind of get like this, you know, training, if you will. I thought that would have been fucking awesome. That'd have been cool, but apparently not. So Winterfell, and I notice I'm coming up on my time. Winterfell. Theon. Okay. The whole thing with Theon, I guess I I wasn't surprised because I kind of saw it happening, especially after, you know, the whole thing about one of Robb's bannermen who said his bastard was up north and could assemble forces against Theon. So we've been expecting this to happen. And even when his men, you know, knocked him out and, you know, went back home, same thing. I knew that was going to happen. You know, Theon was giving his whole rah, rah, rah speech, and I'm like, yeah, they're not feeling it. You could tell they weren't feeling it. But, man, they killed Maester Luwin. What the fuck? What was that about? Was it supposed to be a secret that they rebelled against Theon? Because I'm pretty sure they offered Theon up to the enemy. But was that supposed to be a secret? I mean, what the fuck, man? Like, why did y'all kill Maester Luwin? And then, okay, the whole thing about Winterfell burning, did Theon's men do that before they left? Or did Homeboy's bastard do that? Because if it's the latter, then what we're talking about here is, you know, you have Robb who's succeeding, you know, from the south, right? He's trying to be free in the north. But now you have a, what's the term I'm looking for? Now you have dissension within the north. Do y'all smell that? Smells like mutiny, doesn't it? So, Robb, oh man, Robb's just all the way, he's fucked 5 ways from Sunday. You know, before I made the comment that Robb couldn't go home even if he wanted to because Theon was up there. Now Robb can't even go home even if he wanted to because apparently, if in fact your boy's bastard and his men were responsible for burning Winterfell, then that means he can't even go up there because of the natives. They've turned on him. So yeah, Robb's fucked, yo. Robb's fucked. Now I want to talk about Karth. And, you know, the whole thing about Daenerys, her whole little storyline for this season got wrapped up with her going to the House of the Undying and finding her dragons. And you know what? For a minute there, I was about to lose my shit because the whole time I'm watching the scene, I'm like, what's the end game? What's the end game? What I'm talking about is this. We know that Darksus became mayor of Karth due to his, you know, to the deal he made with the Warlock. But what was the Warlock getting out of the deal? And why was it that he wanted Daenerys in the House of the Undying? Because remember, he offered that to her before he took the dragons. You dig? So that's my whole thing. It's like, there's a reason why he wants her there. If he wanted the dragons, he would have just taken the dragons and skipped town. But no, he took the dragons and he put them in the House of the Undying because he wanted her there. So the whole time I'm thinking, why? We find out, apparently, the dragons and Daenerys some way somehow amplified his power. I think it has something to do with, you know, this whole idea of dragons. You know, they're these ancient creatures. They are connected to the old ways and, you know, the old arts and magic and shit like that. So I think it has something to do with that. And then, of course, you know, Daenerys, her being able to control them motherfuckers, I'm pretty sure that's magic-based, too. So it was something like that. But, man, that fucking confrontation was over quick, right? I mean, Daenerys kind of shut that shit down. And then, to top it all off, boy, my surprise when I found out that Daenerys' homegirl was the one, when they caught her in bed with Darksus, I was like, really? She was the one responsible for selling Daenerys out. Man. And my girl Dany, fucking love her. Because when she opened up that vault, the first thing I was thinking was like, put Darksus and your girl in there and lock their ass in there. And sure enough, I was like, yes. Oh, but I do want to mention this. The whole like House of the Undying like journey sequence. The scene with Drogo, that was the other scene. Remember I told you about them scenes that got to me? That scene got to me. I felt that shit. I was like, damn. And I was happy to see my boy Drogo back in this episode, man. I was like, fucking Drogo. Rhaego was in the episode too. He was so cute and pudgy. Anyway, I was like, yeah. But then again, I like that scene. You know, it was kind of like the whole spiritual journey thing. You know, kind of. It was pretty much like Daenerys being tested on where her place was, you know, because you had the Iron Throne, so it's like it's her place on the throne. You know, in the dilapidated Red Keep. Then you had, you know, the hut with Drogo. It's like, well, maybe her place is, you know, was with Drogo and their son and Dothraki. And then we got the actual where the dragons were. So that whole thing got wrapped up, and apparently now the way they ended it was that Dany and her people were just pretty much raiding. I guess they're I guess that was Dox's house that they were raiding. I mean, he was the only one who transgressed against her, so it would just be fair that that's whose, you know, place they would rob. And apparently the motherfucker was broke. I could say something about that, but I won't. I'm just not gonna go there with Doxus. I'm not. Now I want to talk about what happened north of the wall. First thing with Jon. What's your boy's name? I can only remember, what is it, Quarren? Half Hand? His whole plan, I gotta say, yes, it worked, but it was also pretty extreme. That was a pretty radical and harsh thing to do, but Jon followed through, you know, and the plan worked because now they trust him. And look, they took him right there to Mance, you know, right there to the to their camp. But yeah, man, that was brutal. And my hat's off to Half Hand for willing to, you know, to do that. But man, that was extreme. But they closed out the fucking episode with the motherfucking White Walkers. And oh, the White Walkers. Oh man, that was the scene that I was like, whoa. And wow. You know, and it's kind of funny because this season my interest in the show has dwindled. There are multiple reasons for that. I mean, there's a list, people. I got a list for you, okay? There's a list of reasons for that. But more so than anything else is this season was a build-up season. That's what it was. The whole season was a build-up season, right? And the reason why I like this episode is because this episode, just like Blackwater, I feel like it was finally the fulfillment of everything it's been building up to this season. But at the same time, though, this is still only the halfway mark. You see what I'm saying? Because what was being built up for in the first season, some of that still hasn't come through yet. You dig? So that was my whole thing. It's like this is all a fucking build-up season, right? If they carry through with what they were setting up in this episode, because you know the finale always sets up for next season. I think next season is going to be fucking good. I mean, man, just the thing with the White Walkers though, because you had so many, and then they seemed conscious, which was the thing that tripped me out. I'm like, wait a minute, they aren't zombies. They have some type of consciousness. You saw it in the eyes of the fucking White Walker that was riding that found Sam. They're conscious, so they have some type of level of intelligence, which leads me to believe, what are they? My guess, and I'm gonna try to hurry up because I know this camera's about to go out. My guess is this though. I have a feeling that the White Walker, hear me out now, I know it's crazy, hear me out. I think the White Walkers are reanimated bodies, we know that, right? But I don't think they're reanimated bodies possessed by the souls of the people that was once there. I think they may be reanimated by the spirits of the first men. Because the way in which they looked, I'm sorry, but that they had somewhat of a Native American feel to them. And that whole idea of like that origin, that root, that archaicness about them led me to believe, it's like, I bet you that's the spirits of the first men who animate the bodies of the dead that they find north of the wall. And that's what makes fucking White Walkers. And if that's, hey, either way it goes, I'm looking forward to next season. I want to see what's going on with these fucking White Walkers. Man, they looked fucking badass. But that's going to do it for my season 2